It's the 3rd of August, 2017. A number moves through the internet faster than most news. 222 million euros, paid in full for one footballer. For 72 hours, the number is the story. Then Neymar lands in Paris, smiles at the cameras, and says he came to win the Champions League. Nobody argues with him. He never wins it. Three years earlier, a configuration of players comes together at Barcelona that the sport will spend the following decade trying to make sense of. Lionel Messi, Luis Suárez, Neymar. In their first full season together, they score 122 goals. They win the treble. In the Champions League final, Neymar scores the third, and Barcelona are champions of Europe. He is 23. What makes MSN difficult to analyze, even now, is that it did not function the way most attacking units function. It was not three players taking turns. It was something closer to a shared intelligence. Suárez occupying, Messi disorganizing, Neymar exploiting whatever remained. Remove any one piece and the shape collapses, which is precisely why it worked. Each player was freed from the full weight of expectation because the other two were carrying part of it. Neymar, inside this, is extraordinary. He is also, and he understands this, third. Not third in talent necessarily. Third in how the system is oriented. The ball moves to Messi first. Decisions route through Messi first. When something needs to be done, the instinct of teammates, of coaches, of the crowd, is to find Messi. This is not unfair. It is simply how the hierarchy works when one player is Lionel Messi. But hierarchies, in elite sport, have a particular effect on the people positioned just below them. They clarify your ceiling. They show you in real time the distance between where you are and where the ceiling is. And they show you this every day, in training, in matches, in the way journalists frame questions, in the way commercial deals get structured. Neymar spends 3 years looking at that ceiling. By 2017, he has decided he would prefer a different room. Paris Saint-Germain had been trying since their Qatari takeover in 2011 to establish themselves as a permanent fixture in the conversation about European football's elite. They had won League One repeatedly. They had signed Ibrahimovic, then Cavani, then Verratti. They had invested in infrastructure, in coaching, in the peripheral details that serious clubs invest in. The Champions League remained out of reach. Not for lack of quality, PSG's squads across this period were, on paper, competitive. But paper is not the same as knockout football in March and April, against sides whose structures had been built specifically to contain individual brilliance. What the club needed, what the ownership had decided they needed, was a player whose signature alone shifted perception. Not just improved the squad, shifted how the rest of the sport viewed the club. Neymar's release clause was 222 million euros. They paid it. On the day he arrives in Paris, thousands of supporters turn out at the Parc des Princes. He is presented on the pitch. The reception is extraordinary. He holds up the shirt and says the things you say. 6 months later, PSG sign Mbappé. He is 18, initially a loan from Monaco, then permanent, 180 million euros. At the time, it is framed as reinforcement. 2 world-class attackers. PSG building depth. Nothing about the announcement suggests it complicates anything. But football at this level does not comfortably accommodate 2 players who need the same things. The ball in the final third. Space to operate. The status of being the player a move is built around. For the first 2 seasons, the tension is managed without being resolved. Neymar is the senior player. Mbappé differs broadly. The hierarchy holds. Then Mbappé gets better, not marginally, visibly season by season, in a way that becomes difficult to route around. He is faster than almost anyone in world football. He is more consistent, more available, more reliably present for the fixtures that matter. And he is French, which in Paris carries its own institutional gravity. The hierarchy does not officially change, but in the way the team organises itself in the final third, in the way the crowd responds, in the small accumulated details of how a squad's internal logic settles, it shifts. Neymar had come to Paris to be the player that a project was built around. Something else was being built around. February 2018, a league game against Marseille. Neymar challenges for the ball, lands awkwardly and does not get up. The fifth metatarsal in his right foot. He misses the Champions League round of 16. PSG face Real Madrid without him. They lose. The foot is repaired over the summer. The following January, he injures it again. Same foot, same bone, same timing, roughly. Weeks before the knockout rounds begin. 2 seasons, 2 identical injuries, both in moments that, for the specific purpose of winning in Europe, cannot be recovered from in time. There is no conspiracy in this. Metatarsal injuries are notoriously prone to recurrence, particularly underload. The medical explanation is straightforward. What is less straightforward is what it does to a project structured around his availability. A player who is decisive in October and November and absent in March and April is, for the purposes of winning the Champions League, a different problem than a player who is simply not good enough. The talent is visible. The reward is withheld. The gap between the two becomes its own kind of weight, for the club, for the player, for the story that is slowly forming around him. PSG reached the Champions League final in 2020. The tournament is played in a bubble in Lisbon, condensed, no travel, reduced physical load. Neymar plays every match. He is excellent. He looks, across those 2 weeks, like the player the transfer fee described. They lose the final to Bayern Munich. 1 goal. It remains the closest they have come. In the summer of 2021, Barcelona cannot afford to register Lionel Messi's new contract. The details accumulate over years: wage inflation, pandemic losses, deferred payments, and arrive simultaneously in a way the club cannot absorb. The practical outcome is simple. Messi, who has played his entire career at one club, who has declined approaches from elsewhere for 2 decades, leaves. He signs for Paris Saint-Germain. The announcement produces a particular kind of disorientation in people who follow football closely. Messi in Paris, in a PSG shirt, training alongside Neymar. The two of them are photographed together at the club's facilities. They look comfortable. The reunion appears genuine. What it means for the shape of Neymar's time in Paris is something no one states directly, but the arithmetic is not complicated. Neymar had moved to Paris at extraordinary cost to himself and the club, specifically to operate outside the gravitational pull of Messi's presence. 4 years later, Messi is in the next changing room. Messi's season at PSG is, on the pitch, strange. He does not adapt. The football does not suit him. The crowd is patient for a while, then not. He leaves after 1 year, joins Inter Miami, and within months looks again like the player everyone had assumed was finished. The Paris chapter barely registers in his career, a year that happened between other things. For Neymar, it is harder to categorize what Messi's presence meant and what his departure left behind. In the summer of 2024, Mbappé signs for Real Madrid on a free transfer. He had been available for a year. PSG had tried to keep him. The negotiation became public in ways that damaged everyone involved. He leaves anyway. Real Madrid present him at the Bernabeu. 80,000 people? The ceremony is vast. He is 25. By the time Mbappé leaves, Neymar is no longer at PSG. He joined Al Hilal in Saudi Arabia the previous summer. In October 2023, in only his 5th match for the club, his knee gives way. Anterior cruciate ligament. He misses the remainder of the season. Plays 6 minutes of competitive football in his first year at the club. 32 years old. Absent again. Different country, same pattern. At Barcelona, in the 3 seasons after Neymar left, Messi won 2 more La Liga titles. The club tried to replace what MSN had been. Dembélé arrived. Coutinho arrived. Griezmann. The numbers were fine. None of it cohered in the same way. Whether that is because the configuration itself was irreplaceable, or because the players brought in were not quite the right fit, or simply because those particular years, that precise overlap of age and form and understanding between 3 specific people had passed and could not be reconstructed, is difficult to determine. Probably all 3. What Neymar left in 2017 was not just a team. It was a moment in its own peak. The kind that is only visible as such in retrospect. He made his decision before the retrospect was available, which is the only time decisions can be made. Whether it was the wrong one is genuinely unclear. He was, in Paris, sometimes the best player on the pitch in the Champions League. He was, in Paris, sometimes the player whose injury changed the result before a ball was kicked in the tie that mattered. Both things are true. They sit alongside each other without resolving into a clean verdict. The version of this story that says he failed is too simple. The version that says PSG failed him is also too simple. What is true is that the 222 million euros produced 7 years of football that never quite became what either side had imagined when the number was agreed. That the project had windows, the 2020 final in Lisbon, the brief overlap when the squad was fully fit and functioning, where it almost worked. And that almost in the Champions League is the distance between legacy and footnote. The 222 million euros remains the largest transfer fee ever paid. No club has matched it. Neymar is now 34, playing in Brazil, back where it all began. At Santos. At Barcelona, the generation he was part of has largely dispersed. Suárez linked up with Messi at Inter Miami in January 2024. Messi is still in Miami, still playing, still occasionally producing the kind of moment that makes the previous sentence feel slightly absurd. The sport continues making expensive decisions in the belief that the right individual, at the right price, resolves the deeper structural questions. Sometimes it does. The record suggests the system continues, even if the lesson is understood.